answered the call of my nation and went to help the Americans as a translator in Sangin district of Helmand province. I spent months at war alongside American Marines and the Afghan National Army. We walked mile after mile in a place where the ground itself seemed to be trying to reach up to drag us down with claws of flame and steel. After decades of war, I had wanted to help build an Afghanistan where we could have the things the Americans talked about: freedom, democracy, and security. I wanted our country to guarantee basic human rights for our citizens. I wanted my daughters to go to school with my son and have a say in their own future. Since 2016, though, it had been clear my dreams for Afghanistan were only that. I had decided back then that if I could not raise my children in a safe, free Afghanistan where they could choose their own paths in life, I would apply for the Special Immigrant Visa, SIV, offered to battlefield translators and Afghans who work directly for the United States government. I had wanted to build a life in my country, but if that was impossible, we would seek our dreams in America, as so many have done. I began the SIV process in 2016, but when the bureaucracy proved too much for me alone, I reached out to Major Tom Schueman, the man who led the Marines I worked with in Sangin, in hopes he could help. He immediately went to work to help me, but by 2020, even with both of us, the system was still too complicated. Making things worse, time was running out for me and my family. In February 2020, the Americans and the Taliban signed a deal in Doha, Qatar, that would have all Americans gone from Afghanistan by May 2021. I knew that I had attached my future and that of my family to the hopes the Americans brought in 2001, but those hopes would leave with them. The Americans were leaving for good, and I feared what lay ahead. As a former interpreter, I had long known I was a target and I had accepted the risks. Other interpreters and members of the Afghan National Security Forces had already been killed by the Taliban, who posted night letters in public places threatening death to people who work with the Americans or the Afghan government. Sometimes they named names. Sometimes they were left on a specific person's doorstep or taped to their door. The phone calls threatening me had started back in 2018. Now, standing in the courtyard of my family's home in the early hours of a morning in spring 2020, I could still hear the hoarse voice and the threat it had delivered only moments before. As I turned my eyes back to the stars, my phone, still silenced to allow my family to sleep, buzzed in my hand. I looked down. A text message had arrived. "You cannot escape us, Zainullah. The justice of Allah will be swift. Your day is coming."
Tom. As with most things in the United States Marine Corps, there is a cadence to the ceremonies by which we honor Marines who make the ultimate sacrifice. At a military funeral, the family and friends sit waiting before the open grave. From the rear of a hearse, a pallbearer detail in marine dress blues draws forth a flag-draped casket. A Marine Staff non-commissioned officer calls out, "Present arms." Uniformed service members snap a salute as the pallbearers carry a brother or sister to the grave, feet first, the flag positioned such that the blue field of stars is at the head of the casket and over the left shoulder of the Marine within. A rifle firing detail's weapons, stacked at the front right side of the gathering, await the Marines serving as pallbearers, or body bearers in the blunt nomenclature of the Corps. A bugler stands opposite. Silence lays heavy upon the shoulders of the living as the pallbearers quietly execute the commands required to place the casket upon the carriage in front of the grieving family. On a muted command, the pallbearers execute facing movements and march forth, merging into a single column as they retrieve their rifles and stand at parade rest for the duration of the service. The conduct of the service varies by religion.